We now have Dry Gas and Happy Gas in Java Edition. Hello there, right here. Let's take a look at how they are different in Java Edition from how they are in Bedrock Edition, and also answer all the interesting questions you guys had. Now, the basics of the Happy Gas as well as the Dry Gas are the same as what I covered already in this video here, which is when it was first released on Bedrock Edition last week. So let's jump right into the more technical stuff. So most entities will fall right through the gas until the player is on top of it. So if I just stand a little bit on top of it now if I throw items, you can see they'll actually just sit on top of it, which is really cool. And if we would summon something like a cow, you can see it doesn't fall through, but as soon as they walk away, then the cow will fall through, which is similar to Bedrock Edition. As you can see, the cow will stay on top, but if I drop a cow on top while no one's running it, it goes right through. Now, if we place a boat on top of the Happy Gas, they'll actually sit there, but this is actually not unique to the Happy Gas, as boats' collision prevent them from going through pretty much all entities. And if we summon in a minecart, you can see it also sits on top of the gas. But once again, this is not unique to gas, but Bedrock Edition is different, where boats will not want to sit on top of the Happy Gas, no matter if the player is standing on top of it. But how much of the player actually has to be over top of it for the entities to still sit on top? So right now, I'm no longer technically on top of the gas. The items are still there. If I just slowly move away, at which point does the item... Oh, okay, right about there. So it seems like right when I kind of leave this block over here. So let's see, I'll throw an item over there. Yeah, it doesn't go through. If I'm happy to looking at this block, now the items can sit on top. So it seems like if you're within 1 meter of the gas, then that is the limit. And then if you're any further than that, now entities will fall right through. Now, oddly enough, entities will sit on top even if you're in spectator mode, which is probably not intended, but you can see I can leave and now the entities fall. That's probably a bug that's going to get fixed. So now let's see how far upwards we can go before the gas collision is removed. So I'm going to slowly move my player little by little. Okay, I found the limit. So if I drop an item here, they will sit on top. As soon as they move 1/100th of a block higher, they then fall. So let's go ahead and check our coordinates. And it seems to be exactly 2 meters away from the gas. So if it's under 2 meters, it collides. But if you go just 2 meters or higher, then it will not. Now, like I said in the previous video, I really don't like the idea of only having collision when the player's around. I'm guessing they did it this way to avoid some problems that we see with boats, which have a collision all the time. But it ends up making the Happy Gas not very useful at all when it comes to technical uses, especially when trying to use it inside of machines, because you don't want to be there always standing on top of it. Now, when it comes to how far down we can be while still keeping the top of the gas a collision, it turns out even if you move the most slightest amount of blocks downwards, it will immediately cause it to no longer collide, as it only moved 1/100th of a block and the items all fell through. So the total area where it checks is 1 block out from the edges and 2 blocks above it. This allows you to easily jump on it without having to accidentally deactivate it. But if we go inside of a boat or a minecart, this will actually cause the player to move downwards. So if I stand here and go into it, now I'm slightly shorter. Now any entities will fall through it. And same thing when it comes to the minecart. That's because my feet are actually technically down here inside of the gas. Now, this range is similar to Bedrock Edition, but it is different because in Bedrock Edition, if you're like on the side and you run into the gas, you will actually collide with it as the collision goes much lower, which honestly, they should have that in Java Edition. But there's also some weird stuff in Bedrock Edition, like if you would jump on top of it, you can sometimes clip through it when there's lag. Speaking of lag, in Bedrock Edition, if you would drop yourself from different heights, once you get so high up, it would allow you to clip through it. But in Bedrock Edition, it was kind of random, so there's always like a small percentage of you clipping through when you drop yourself like 22 blocks. But if you get up to like 40 blocks, there would be a higher chance of clipping through. And something like 60 blocks would almost have like a 50-50 chance of going through every time. But it seems like on Java Edition, it's much better, where there's 0 chance of clipping through it, even if you fall really far. Now, I thought this could be used to like sort mobs from dropping them from certain heights, as if they're moving so fast they could clip through and survive versus ones that are moving slower. But it was so inconsistent in Bedrock Edition, wasn't really worth it. And of course, we don't have it here in the Java Edition. But you can see that when the mobs do hit the surface, they actually take damage like it's a solid. In a lot of ways, you can just think of this as being like a boat in the game, as the boat has collision. It's also a bit different than Bedrock Edition, where if you would kind of clip inside of it, instead of being able to just continue to fall through it, it would snap you back to the top of it. Now, the size of the Happy Gas is the exact same size as the normal gas, being 4x4x4. And the Happy Gas are considered passive mobs just like cows, and we can see this by spawning them in and looking at the creature number, which is over in the F3 menu. So without having a player there, the happy gas is going to act very similar to a normal gas, which you can use to like push mobs and stuff, which these happy gas are easier to put inside of sweeping farms because you can easily carry around the dried gas item and just hydrate it. But the main thing is the top collision here, so not being able to use this in machines is a real disappointment. In some ways, the gas is kind of like a scaffolding, where it's like you can stand on top of it if you want to, but you can also come from underneath and move up through it without any collision. As the gas has no collision, it's only once you're on top of it and try to go back down again do you collide with it. And when it comes to scaffolding, this is used often as you can make mobs go like upwards, but they won't go back downwards again. But once again, the problem with the happy gas is that it only happens if the player is nearby to keep it a solid top. And even if you're trying to make it like a one-way valve so that players can't go downwards, it is still possible to get through. Now, the way I found out how to get through this gas barrier by standing far enough away so any mobs that try to land on it will fall through, then have a mob that you can ride, drop partly inside of it, and once it's inside, go ahead and click on it, and now you got beyond the solid part on the gas, so you can easily sneak inside if this was like a secret base opening. Let me know if you found any clever tricks to do a similar thing. If I give myself some jump boost, we can try to jump up from the bottom upwards. But you can see the gas has quite a bit of pushing power because it's such a large mob and they don't want you to go inside of it. But the collision force seems a lot stronger than what it was in Bedrock Edition. But with some blocks in place, we can jump right through the gas, and then when we fall back down, it catches us, very similar to like the scaffolding. But if we use a weaker jump boost, where in Bedrock Edition we would clip inside the gas and it kind of just pushes to the top of it, you can see the gas does not catch us unless we go above the top of the line. Now, because they are such a huge hitbox, if you are working on top of them and happen to fall, you can click on them, even if you fall like beyond them a little bit, because you can click on the very bottom of them while you're falling downwards and still hop back to the top of them. Which means you could kind of use these as like a minecart elevator, and you wouldn't need as many of them because you can click way down low and it's going to place you up high, and then you can place another gas on top of this and keep clicking upwards. Although minecart elevators or boat elevators are pretty old school at this point, now that we have bubble columns and elytras. Now, one thing that is different from Bedrock Edition is we can actually use the normal spawn egg on an adult in order to produce the gasling baby. And boats should automatically dismount these guys when they grow up, similar to when it comes to like the camels and stuff, and it does. That way you can't actually have like a boat riding a minecart and then having like 2 ghast in there and having 8 people on top of those and having 16 parrots on top of their shoulders like I showed in that one video before they changed camels. Now, as we've seen in the Minecraft live event, they are not immune to fire, unlike gas from the nether dimension, because that is their home, and in the nether it makes sense that they would be fire resistant. Where the happy ones come directly from being hydrated, so it makes sense that they would not enjoy being put on fire. But they can still drown in water. Now, there seems to be a bug when it comes to these guys' roaming area. Normally they won't leave their home area, but if they do move more than 16 blocks away from it, then they will reset their home area at that location. So it seems like these guys kept moving outwards until they ran into unloaded chunks and got stuck there. The happy gas makes some funny noise, but if you have stereo audio, you can hear noises from the right and left side, so the noise changes from the right to left speaker, but if you're constantly changing your FOV, it can sound really weird. Now, in Bedrock Edition, if you would put the harness in your player's head slot, it would look really strange. But this can only be done using a command, but if we do it in Java Edition, it looks like one of the default items that just placed on your head, which is a bit unfortunate. So definitely not as cool as Bedrock Edition. But putting dried gas on your head in Bedrock Edition wouldn't show up at all, but if we go ahead and do it in Java Edition, you can actually see it there barely, as it's kind of under my neck. And if you look inside my head, it's just barely underneath of the main layer. You can't see it if you go straight into the center. And you normally can't put the dried gas on your head because it's not considered a skull or head. And even when you place it on the ground, unlike the skulls which you can place at these kitty corner angles, when it comes to the dried gas, it can only be placed in their cardinal directions. It's also instant break, where these you have to mine up to break them. And the collisions are different as well, where most of the heads are half block tall. These are 2 pixels higher than them. And the heads you can place on the side of the block, and it's a different type, where if you place these on the side of the block, it's just going to place them like if you placed them on the ground. And because they're not a head, they don't go on armor stands where the other ones do. Now, the actual dried gas block is categorized as natural blocks in the creative menu, right along the sniffer egg, the turtle eggs, and the frog spawn. So it's treated more like an egg rather than the mob heads. Now the harnesses are stored right beside the saddles, as it does make sense, but one thing I don't like is when they have all these repeat stuff before somewhat important stuff that is unique, like the rails down here. They should have all the repeat stuff at the very bottom. Sort of like how they don't put the repeated doors here at the bottom, they only have single ones when it comes to this redstone tab. Now in Bedrock Edition it's kind of strange that they would actually break and wash away from water. Let's go ahead and try it in Java, and they do also break and get washed by water, which is really weird because they can be waterlogged, yet if you place them in flowing water, they break off. And I can't think of anything else in the game that is like that. If you guys know of some other block, let me know. And with the dry gases rehydration, it will send out an update every 5 minutes when it slowly increments its growth, which can be used for a consistent 5-minute clock. Now, finding dried gas naturally in the nether dimension is pretty rare, because not only are typically the fossils here in the Soul Sand Valley biome, but also it seems that maybe only 1 in 10 actually have the dried gas actually spawn part of the fossil, where the rest of the fossils are just like the old versions. They added in a new advancement for hydrating a dried gas. If you just put water onto it, you get this advancement called Stay Hydrated. Place a dried gas block into water. And it's in the husbandry category for the advancements, and this also plays into all the references that they sneak peeked before the Minecraft live event. Putting a creaking heart between 2 logs will get you another new advancement called Heart Transplanter, and this one is under the Adventure advancements. Locate bar is also available for Java Edition, but you do have to enable it with this on button here in the experiments page before starting up a new world. Now, in addition from using a pumpkin or invisibility or crouching to hide from players finding you with the locate bar, they also now added it so you can use any of these mob heads or skulls in your head slot in order to not show up on the locate bar as well. Or you can turn it off if you have access to the server settings by using the game rule use locator bar, and then you can set this to false, where by default it is normally on. We also got a new command which is called waypoints. This actually works very similar to waypoints in mods. This is a system which they use in order to track where players are at. But this could also be used like in maps now in order to make like a similar kind of point where the player can walk towards it, and it'll show it up on the locator bar. There's also several bugs that were fixed, with nothing being too interesting, with most of them being related to visual fixes. Now, with the introduction of the second drop of 2025, they did say that from now on they're going to have snapshots come out on Tuesdays, which are the same days that they release the full release versions. This is a big change, as we've been having Wednesday snapshots for a really long time, so having them on Tuesday is going to feel really different. It also means we're going to have to wait more days before having to play these on the weekends. A lot of people have work or school, so they can't get around to playing the new snapshots until later on. Personally, I'm not a real fan of this change, as Wednesday became such an iconic day to look for new updates. But what do you think about this? And I normally come out with like a second video on Friday or Saturday that goes into more details about what the snapshot was about. So now there's going to be more time between the snapshot video on Tuesday and the secondary video on the subject, which will probably be more like Fridays now. Speaking of my Friday video, I'll probably show you guys my dried gas farm, which I did do a design prior to even coming out here on the Java Edition. Look forward to that video. Also, if you didn't see my community post, Minecraft said that they are extending the time for you guys to get the Yearn Cape by keeping a Minecraft Movie live event open until April 14th. I'll put the video in the description how you can even AFK in order to get it, so it's really easy. But the other 2 capes, being the one that comes from Twitch and TikTok, are no longer obtainable. And in this poll I did, with over 3,000 people participating, you can see the majority of people did not get any of the 3 capes, which actually really surprised me. But the main reason why they didn't get the cape is that they already have a cape and they really didn't see the other capes being that nice to actually collect. Personally, I think the 15-year-old cape from last summer was one of the best of all time. If you have any more questions about the happy gas or the dry gas, let me know down below. Now come watch me perfect my automatic dry gas farm over at my Twitch and TikTok live streams, which I do every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll have to decide if I want to switch to start streaming Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays, because typically I stream Wednesdays for the new snapshot. And don't forget, if you are a supporter of mine, you get tons of cool perks. So check out my Patreon if you haven't already. I'll see you guys all over there, and bye-bye!